The wedding crowd falls silent as the video begins to play. Hotel security footage, grainy but clear, showing my groom entering a room with a woman who isn't me. Gasps echo through the chapel. My hands shake as I lift the microphone. This is why I can't marry him. The screen flickers with timestamp evidence. March 15, 2024. The same night as my bachelorette party. There's Michael, my fiancé of 2 years, kissing his boss Victoria in a hotel hallway. Her hands tangle in his hair. His wedding ring glints in the security camera's harsh light. I watch Michael's face drain of color. Victoria tries to duck behind the flower arrangements. The videographer keeps filming, just like I asked him to. My maid of honor Emma squeezes my hand, whispering, "You've got this." 300 guests stare in stunned silence. Michael's parents look mortified. My mother covers her mouth in shock. But I feel calm for the first time in weeks. The truth is finally out. Everything started 7 days ago. When I found that hotel keycard in his jacket pocket. Last Monday morning, I was doing laundry when I felt something crinkle in Michael's jacket. A plastic hotel keycard from the Grandview Suites downtown. Strange, since he'd told me he was working late at the office. My heart hammered against my ribs. Michael worked as a marketing director at Pinnacle Solutions. Victoria Reed was his boss, a sharp, ambitious woman in her 40s who'd recently divorced. She had striking red hair and wore designer suits that cost more than my monthly salary. I'd met Victoria twice at company events. She was charming but intense. Both times, I noticed how her eyes lingered on Michael during conversations. How she touched his arm when she laughed. How he seemed different around her, more confident, more animated. Standing in our bedroom, holding that key card, a terrible suspicion crept over me. Michael had been distant lately, always on his phone, working later and later. Last week, he'd even missed our anniversary dinner, claiming Victoria needed him for an urgent project. I slipped the key card into my purse. If Michael was having late meetings, I needed to know what kind. That evening, I installed a GPS tracker on Michael's car. The tiny device cost me $200 and required crawling under his Honda in our apartment parking garage. My hands were filthy by the time I finished, but it was worth it. At 8 p.m., Michael kissed my cheek and said he had to work late again. Victoria's got this big client presentation tomorrow. I'll probably be there until midnight. I smiled and nodded like the trusting fiancé I'd been for 2 years. Don't work too hard, honey. The moment his taillights disappeared, I opened the tracking app on my phone. Michael's car moved through downtown traffic, but he wasn't heading to the office. Instead, he drove straight to the Grandview Suites. My stomach clenched as I watched the little blue dot stop in the hotel parking lot. I grabbed my keys and drove across town, parking where I could see the hotel entrance. At 8:47 p.m., I watched Victoria's silver Mercedes pull up. She stepped out wearing a black dress I'd never seen at the office. Michael met her at the entrance. They didn't shake hands or exchange business documents. He pulled her close and kissed her deeply, right there in the lobby. The next morning, I returned to the Grandview Suites with a different plan. I approached the young receptionist with my brightest smile and a fake story about planning a surprise anniversary for my husband. He stays here sometimes for business, I lied smoothly. I wanted to book the same room to make it special. The receptionist, Sarah, according to her name tag, was eager to help. "Oh, how sweet. What's your husband's name? I can check our guest history." "Michael Torres," I said, my heart pounding. Sarah's fingers danced across her keyboard. "Oh yes, Mr. Torres is one of our regular guests. He always books the executive suite on the 10th floor. Such a lovely couple, he and the red-headed woman." My blood turned to ice. "The red-headed woman? They always request the same suite," Sarah continued cheerfully. "Suite 1012. They've been coming here every Tuesday for about 6 months. So romantic." I managed to keep smiling until I reached my car. Then I sat in the parking lot and cried for 20 minutes. 6 months. They'd been having an affair for 6 months, and I'd been planning our wedding, tasting cakes, and addressing invitations. But crying wouldn't solve anything. I wiped my eyes and drove to meet my friend Jake. Jake worked in IT security and owed me a favor from when I'd helped him through his divorce last year. We met at a quiet coffee shop downtown, and I explained what I needed. Hotel security footage? Jake raised his eyebrows. That's not exactly legal, you know. I'm not asking you to hack anything, I said carefully. I just need to know if it's possible to access that footage if, say, someone reported suspicious activity. Jake stirred his coffee thoughtfully. Hypothetically, if someone had legitimate concerns about criminal activity like identity theft or fraud, hotels do cooperate with investigations. 3 hours later, Jake called me back. I know a guy who works hotel security. If you can provide some basic information, dates, times, room numbers, he might be able to help. Unofficially. By Thursday evening, I had grainy but damning video files on a flash drive. The footage showed Michael and Victoria entering Suite 1012 together multiple times over the past 6 months. The timestamps matched every single late work night Michael had claimed. One video was particularly painful to watch. It was from March 15th, the night of my bachelorette party. While my friends and I had been celebrating at a wine bar, Michael was in a hotel room with his boss. The betrayal cut deeper than I'd expected. I stared at my engagement ring that night, remembering how excited I'd been when Michael proposed. We'd been together for 5 years, living together for 3. I'd thought we were building something real. The ring had cost him 3 months' salary, or so he'd claimed. Now I wondered if Victoria had helped him pay for it. I slipped it of my finger and placed it in my jewelry box. It felt strange having my ring finger bare. I'd already spent $8,000 on my wedding dress. The venue was booked. The caterers were preparing for 300 guests. Our families were flying in from across the country. Canceling now would be devastating and expensive. But marrying a cheater would be worse. I opened my laptop and started researching lawyers. If Michael wanted to play games, I'd make sure I was protected. The apartment lease was in both our names, but I'd been the one making most of the rent payments since Michael got passed over for that promotion last year. Now I suspected he'd been too busy with Victoria to focus on advancing his own career. I found a lawyer who specialized in family law and booked a consultation for Friday morning. My lawyer, Patricia Chen, was a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who listened to my story with practiced calm. I showed her the hotel keycard, the GPS tracking data, and the security footage. "You've been thorough," she said approvingly. "Do you want to pursue a case for emotional distress?" "Maybe later," I said. "Right now, I just want to protect myself financially. And I want him to face consequences for what he's done." Patricia reviewed our lease agreement and the financial records I'd brought. "Since you're not married yet, your legal options are limited. But we can send him a formal notice about the apartment situation. And if you decide to cancel the wedding, we can explore recovering some costs." I left her office with a folder full of legal documents and a clearer head. Michael's affair wasn't just about our relationship, it was about him lying to me for months, using our joint credit card for hotel rooms, and making me look like a fool to our friends and families. The wedding was in 5 days. I could cancel everything and disappear. Or I could turn the tables on him. I chose option 2. Victoria Reed had a husband. His name was David Reed, and he worked as an architect downtown. I found his information through LinkedIn and company directories. He seemed like a decent man, someone who deserved to know what his wife was doing. I created an anonymous email account and sent David a simple message: "Your wife Victoria is having an affair with her employee Michael Torres. They meet every Tuesday at the Grandview Suites, Suite 1012. I thought you should know." I included copies of the hotel security footage and GPS tracking data. If David wanted proof, he'd have it. Within 6 hours, David replied to my anonymous account. "Thank you for telling me. I've suspected something for months but couldn't prove it. Can we meet to discuss this further?" We arranged to meet at a neutral location, a bookstore cafe across town. David was tall, soft-spoken, and clearly devastated. He told me he'd been married to Victoria for 12 years and had 2 children. "She's been working late constantly," he said quietly. Missing family dinners, weekend events. She said her job was demanding, but now, I felt terrible for him. Like me, he was an innocent victim of their selfishness. What are you going to do? I asked. David's jaw tightened. I'm filing for divorce. And I want her to face consequences at work too. Office affairs violate company policy. David and I spent 2 hours comparing notes. He showed me Victoria's credit card statements, which revealed charges at expensive restaurants on the same nights Michael had claimed to be working late. Hotel charges that matched my GPS data. Even couples' spa treatments. She's been using our joint account to fund this affair, David said bitterly. Money that should have gone to our kids' college funds. I showed him more security footage and photographs I'd taken of Victoria's car at the hotel. Together, we built an airtight case of evidence. The wedding is this Saturday, I told him. I could cancel everything, or... David leaned forward. What are you thinking? What if we both confronted them publicly? At the wedding, in front of everyone? David's eyes hardened. Victoria hates public embarrassment. She's always worried about her professional image. We spent the next hour planning. David would attend the wedding as my guest. I'd claim he was a work colleague. Victoria would be there too, since Michael had insisted on inviting his work team to show off. Michael had no idea he'd invited his lover and her betrayed husband to our wedding. The irony was too perfect to resist. I hired a private investigator to gather additional evidence. Maria Santos was a former police detective who specialized in infidelity cases. For $500, she followed Michael and Victoria for 3 days and documented everything. Maria's photos were devastating. Michael and Victoria kissing in the parking garage at Pinnacle Solutions. Holding hands at a restaurant downtown. Victoria leaving his apartment building early one morning while I was visiting my mother. They're not being careful at all, Maria observed. This affair has been going on for months, and they're acting like nobody will notice. She also uncovered financial records showing Michael had been buying Victoria expensive gifts. Jewelry, perfume, even a weekend getaway to Napa Valley that he'd charged to our joint credit card. He spent $3,000 on that trip, Maria said, showing me the receipts. Told the hotel staff it was for his wife. Technically fraud, since you didn't authorize those charges. I added Maria's evidence to my growing file. Between the security footage, GPS tracking, financial records, and witness statements, I had enough proof to destroy both of them professionally and personally. Saturday was 2 days away. Michael still had no idea I knew about his affair. Victoria's husband David called me Thursday evening with an update. He'd confronted Victoria about the affair, and she'd denied everything at first. But when he showed her the security footage, she'd broken down and confessed. She claimed it was just physical, David said, his voice tight with anger. Said she still loved me and wanted to save our marriage. What did you tell her? That she had 24 hours to end things with Michael or I'd file for divorce and report the affair to their HR department. Victoria had apparently spent the night crying and begging David to forgive her. She'd promised to end the affair immediately and attend counseling. But David wasn't interested in reconciliation. 12 years of marriage, and she throws it away for some younger guy at work, he said bitterly. I'm done. David had already filed for divorce and contacted Pinnacle Solutions' HR department about the policy violation. Victoria would face professional consequences on Monday, regardless of what happened at the wedding. She'll be at your wedding on Saturday, David warned. She thinks she can smooth things over with Michael and convince him to leave you. I smiled grimly. Victoria was in for a very unpleasant surprise. Friday morning, I met with my videographer to give him special instructions. Tom had been recommended by our wedding planner and seemed professional and discreet. I need you to set up a projector system that can display video during the ceremony, I explained. Right after the vows are read but before we exchange rings. Tom looked confused. That's unusual. Most couples do photo montages during the reception. I handed him a flash drive containing the hotel security footage. This isn't a photo montage. It's evidence of my fiancé's affair. I want it played in front of all our guests. Tom's eyes widened as he looked through the files. Are you sure about this? It's going to cause quite a scene. That's the point, I said calmly. I want everyone to see what kind of man they thought I was marrying. Tom agreed to help, though he insisted on being paid in advance in case things got chaotic. I also gave him explicit instructions to keep filming no matter what happened after the footage played. This might be the most dramatic wedding I've ever shot, Tom muttered. He had no idea. That evening, Michael and I had our rehearsal dinner at a nice restaurant downtown. Our families mingled happily, toasting our bright future together. Michael's parents kept praising what a lucky man their son was. If only they knew. Michael seemed nervous throughout dinner, checking his phone constantly. I assumed he was texting Victoria, making last-minute arrangements for their affair to continue after our wedding. Everything okay, honey? I asked sweetly. Just work stress, he lied smoothly. Victoria's got this big project deadline next week. I smiled and squeezed his hand. Well, after tomorrow, you'll have 2 weeks in Hawaii to forget all about work. Our honeymoon reservations were paid for and non-refundable. Michael would be taking that vacation alone or not at all. After dinner, I hugged his parents goodbye and thanked them for raising such a wonderful son. They beamed with pride, completely unaware that their wonderful son was a cheating liar. I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. Saturday morning arrived with perfect weather. Sunny skies, gentle breeze, temperature in the mid-70s. The kind of day that made outdoor weddings magical. I got ready at the hotel with my bridesmaids, sipping champagne and pretending everything was normal. Emma, my maid of honor, kept asking if I was nervous. A little, I said, which was technically true. I was nervous about pulling off the biggest revenge plot of my life in front of 300 people. My mother bustled around, adjusting my dress and fussing with my hair. You look absolutely radiant, sweetheart. Michael is so lucky to have you. We'll see about that, I murmured. My phone buzzed with a text from David. I'm at the venue. Victoria just arrived. She's sitting in the third row, looking very smug. I smiled. Victoria's smugness wouldn't last long. At 2 p.m., my bridesmaids lined up for the processional. The church was packed with friends and family, everyone dressed in their finest clothes. I could see Michael at the altar, looking handsome in his black tuxedo. Too bad he was also a lying, cheating bastard. The ceremony began perfectly. My bridesmaids walked down the aisle to Pachelbel's canon. Emma followed, radiant in her purple dress. Then the wedding march began, and everyone stood to watch me enter. I walked slowly down the aisle, my father's arm steady beneath my hand. Michael's face lit up when he saw me. He mouthed "I love you," and for a moment, I almost felt guilty about what I was about to do. Then I spotted Victoria in the third row, wearing a navy blue dress and looking triumphant. Like she'd already won some contest I didn't know we were playing. My resolve hardened. The officiant, Pastor Williams, welcomed everyone and began the traditional ceremony. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Michael and Sarah in holy matrimony. Michael took my hands and smiled. His palms were slightly sweaty, but I assumed that was normal wedding nerves. He had no idea his double life was about to be exposed to everyone he'd ever cared about. Before we continue with the vows, Pastor Williams announced, Sarah has requested to share something special with everyone. This was my cue. I stepped toward the microphone Pastor Williams offered me. 300 guests watched expectantly, thinking I was about to deliver romantic vows or a heartfelt speech about our love. Thank you all for being here today, I began, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Before Michael and I exchange vows, I want to share something important with everyone. I nodded to Tom, my videographer, who was stationed at the back of the church with his equipment. A large screen descended from the ceiling. Something we'd told the venue was for a special presentation. 6 months ago, Michael began having an affair with his boss, Victoria Reed. I have proof. Gasps echoed through the chapel. Michael's face went white. Victoria half stood from her seat, then sat back down heavily. David, sitting beside her, looked grimly satisfied. The screen flickered to life, showing grainy hotel security footage. The timestamp read March 15, 2024, my bachelorette party night. Michael and Victoria were clearly visible entering suite 1012 together. More footage followed. Different dates, same location. Michael's car in the hotel parking lot. Victoria's Mercedes beside it. 6 months of evidence playing out in crystal clear detail. "This is why I can't marry him," I said into the microphone. The chapel erupted in chaos. Michael's mother screamed. My father lunged forward as if to protect me. Victoria tried to run, but David blocked her path, his face stone-cold with fury. "Sarah, wait." Michael shouted, reaching for me. "I can explain." "Explain what?" I stepped away from him. "Explain how you've been lying to me for 6 months. Explain how you used our joint credit card to pay for hotel rooms. Explain how you were with her the night of my bachelorette party." The security footage continued playing, showing Michael and Victoria kissing in hotel hallways, holding hands in elevators, entering and leaving rooms together. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Victoria finally found her voice. "Turn it off. This is a violation of privacy." "Privacy?" David stood up, his architect's plans scattered at his feet. "You forfeited your right to privacy when you started screwing your employee behind my back." The officiant looked completely lost. Wedding guests were either staring in shock or whispering frantically to each other. Some were taking photos and videos with their phones. Michael made one last desperate attempt. "Sarah, please. We can work through this." It didn't mean anything. I looked him directly in the eyes. It meant something to me. I turned away from Michael and walked back down the aisle. Not the triumphant exit I'd imagined as a little girl, but it felt right. My father caught up with me halfway, wrapping his arm around my shoulders. "I'm proud of you, sweetheart," he whispered. Behind us, the chaos continued. Victoria was crying loudly, begging David to forgive her. Michael was trying to explain himself to his horrified parents. Wedding guests were filing out, some offering me sympathetic looks, others just eager to escape the drama. Emma appeared at my side, still in her purple bridesmaid dress. "That was the most badass thing I've ever seen. How are you feeling?" "Free," I said simply. Outside the church, Tom the videographer approached with his camera still rolling. "That was incredible. Do you want me to give copies of this footage to anyone?" "Send it to my lawyer," I said. "And make sure you get good shots of Victoria's reaction. Her husband's divorce attorney will want to see that." Several wedding guests approached to offer support. My college friends were amazed by my detective work. My aunts were scandalized but impressed. Even some of Michael's relatives apologized for his behavior. "You deserved better," his aunt told me, shaking her head in disgust. By Sunday morning, the story had spread beyond our immediate circle. Someone at the wedding had posted a video on social media, and it was going viral. "Bride exposes cheating fiancé at wedding" was trending on several platforms. My phone buzzed constantly with interview requests from local news stations. I ignored most of them, but I did accept one call from a women's lifestyle blogger who wanted to discuss empowerment in the face of betrayal. "What advice would you give to women who suspect their partners are cheating?" she asked. "Trust your instincts," I said. "And document everything. Don't let anyone gaslight you into thinking you're paranoid or overreacting." The blogger published our conversation that afternoon. Within hours, I was getting messages from women across the country sharing their own stories of infidelity and thanking me for standing up for myself so publicly. Michael had been calling and texting non-stop, begging me to talk to him. I'd blocked his number and his social media accounts. I had nothing to say to him. Victoria, according to David, had been placed on administrative leave pending an HR investigation at Pinnacle Solutions. Their affair violated company policy about relationships between supervisors and subordinates. Justice was being served on multiple fronts. David's divorce proceedings moved quickly. With video evidence of Victoria's affair, her attempts to claim half their assets were dead in the water. She'd also been using their joint credit card to fund hotel rooms and expensive dinners, which constituted financial misconduct. She's trying to claim it was all Michael's fault, David told me over coffee on Tuesday. Says he seduced her and she was just lonely after our marriage problems. What marriage problems? I asked. David laughed bitterly. Exactly. We didn't have marriage problems until she started screwing around with her employee. The HR investigation at Pinnacle Solutions had concluded that Victoria had violated multiple policies. She was terminated effective immediately, forfeiting her executive severance package. Michael, as the subordinate in the relationship, received a formal reprimand and mandatory ethics training. He's lucky to still have a job, David observed. Most companies would have fired him too. Michael's professional reputation was damaged, but not destroyed. Victoria's career, however, was effectively over. No reputable company would hire an executive who'd been terminated for sleeping with subordinates. I felt a twinge of satisfaction at that news. A week after the wedding that wasn't, I moved out of the apartment Michael and I had shared. Emma and several friends helped me pack my belongings. We worked efficiently, and I was careful to take only what was clearly mine. Michael had left several voicemails begging me to reconsider, promising he'd end things with Victoria and go to counseling. He seemed to genuinely believe we could rebuild our relationship after his 6-month betrayal. Some men are just delusional, Emma said, taping up a box of my books. I found the engagement ring I'd hidden in my jewelry box and left it on the kitchen counter with a note. Consider this my final answer. My lawyer had negotiated a clean break from our lease. Michael would take over the full rent payments, and I'd be released from any financial obligations. Since we'd never married, there was no community property to divide. I'd lost a fiancé and a wedding, but I'd gained something more valuable, self-respect. My new apartment was smaller but sunnier. For the first time in months, I felt genuinely excited about the future. Michael showed up at my office the following Monday. Security called to ask if I wanted to see him, and I agreed to 5 minutes in the lobby. He looked terrible. Unshaven, rumpled clothes, dark circles under his eyes. Sarah, please. We need to talk. About what? I crossed my arms. About how you lied to me for 6 months. About how you were planning to continue the affair after our wedding. It wasn't like that, he said desperately. Victoria and it just happened. I never meant for it to go so far. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Nothing just happens, Michael. You made choices. Every Tuesday for 6 months, you chose her over me. I choose you now, he said, reaching for my hands. I ended things with Victoria. I'll do anything to make this right. I stepped back. You ended things with Victoria because she got fired and her husband is divorcing her. Not because you felt guilty about lying to me. Michael's face crumpled. That's not true. I love you, Sarah. I want to marry you. I don't love you anymore, I said quietly. And I definitely don't want to marry you. I walked away and didn't look back. 3 months later, I was thriving in ways I hadn't expected. My job performance had improved dramatically once I stopped worrying about Michael's suspicious behavior. I'd gotten a promotion and a raise that made me financially independent for the first time in years. I'd also started dating someone new. James was a friend of Emma's boyfriend, a software engineer who was honest, funny, and completely transparent about his daily activities. The contrast with Michael was striking. You seem different, James observed over dinner one evening. More confident, I guess. I learned to trust my instincts, I said. And to value myself enough to demand honesty. Victoria had moved back in with her parents after David cleaned her out in the divorce settlement. According to mutual acquaintances, she was working as a freelance marketing consultant, a significant step down from her previous executive position. Michael had tried dating several women from his office, but none of those relationships lasted long. Word had gotten around about his affair, and most women were wary of getting involved with him. Calm as a bitch, Emma said with satisfaction when she updated me on his romantic failures. I didn't take pleasure in Michael's loneliness, but I also didn't feel sorry for him. Actions had consequences. A year after the wedding that wasn't, I received an unexpected message. A woman named Lisa had found my story online and wanted to share her own experience. "My husband was cheating with his secretary," she wrote. "Your story gave me the courage to confront him with evidence instead of just hoping he'd confess. Thank you for showing me that I deserved better." Lisa's message was one of dozens I'd received from women who said my story had inspired them to investigate suspicious behavior in their own relationships. Several had discovered affairs and ended toxic marriages. Others had confirmed their partner's faithfulness and felt more secure in their relationships. "You started a movement," Emma joked when I showed her some of the messages. Maybe I had. Or maybe I just demonstrated what self-respect looked like in action. Either way, I was proud of how I'd handled the situation. I could have quietly cancelled the wedding and slipped away. Instead, I'd chosen to expose the truth publicly and hold Michael accountable for his choices. It had been scary and dramatic, but it had also been empowering. Sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to be anyone's secret or second choice. Today, I'm sitting on the beach in Hawaii, the honeymoon destination Michael and I had planned together. But I'm here with James, celebrating our 6-month anniversary and his recent job promotion. "Do you ever regret how you handled the Michael situation?" James asks, squeezing my hand as we watch the sunset. I think about it seriously. The public humiliation at the wedding. The viral video. The messy aftermath that played out on social media for weeks. No, I say finally. I regret not trusting my instincts sooner. I regret wasting 6 months planning a wedding to a man who was lying to me every day. But I don't regret standing up for myself. James kisses my temple. "I'm glad you did. If you'd married Michael, we never would have met." He's right. My disaster wedding led me to this moment, sitting on a beautiful beach with an honest man who treats me with respect and genuine affection. Michael's betrayal had hurt terribly at the time, but it had also freed me to find something better. My phone buzzes with a notification. Another message from a woman who watched my wedding video and found the courage to leave her cheating husband. I smile and put the phone away. The sunset is too beautiful to miss, and my future is too bright to waste time looking backward. Sometimes the worst day of your life saves you from a worse one.